everybody. My name is Dr. Maggie Baker. I'm trained as a psychologist and also as a financial therapist. And I'm here to help you deal with your money issues. Everybody has money issues. It's whether you are aware of them or not. And there is help. There's a way to become a money master. And that's a way of enjoying the money you have and not worrying about the money that you don't have. And I would also very much like to hear your comments. I've tried to cover a wide variety of subjects, and these are all coming from my clinical experience and my experience in living, but I'm sure that some of you have very, very interesting and exciting questions to ask, and I'm more than happy to hear them because it will only get me thinking and keeping my brain alive and making more videos for you to comment on. I kind of naturally fit the profile for being a psychologist. So I have a BA in both psychology and a minor in philosophy. Got a master's in general psychology and got a Ph.D. in child development and clinical evaluation. So I have a broad background, and I have a very specific background, and I really practice from a psychodynamic and developmental point of view, and I see families and children. I do groups and I do psychological testing. Then as I've gotten older and a little creakier getting down on the floor, I don't see children anymore, and by that time financial therapy had really captured my interest almost completely. So I still see people with anxiety and depression, and particularly with ADHD because I have a specialty in that. And one of the primary things that makes me highly motivated and empathic with this situation is that one of my sons and my husband had ADHD, and I was in a position to help them. So that's how I got into the ADHD. And certainly, if you have your own personal experience in something, it's going to be far more motivating. The pain of loss is so great, and people don't know how to handle it in the sense that it makes them feel very vulnerable. And people, when they feel vulnerable, they feel weak, and they don't want to expose that vulnerability and weakness to anybody. So they tend to keep it to themselves, and it bottles up inside them as a big cauldron of shame, which is very, very difficult to cope with on one's own. You need to bear witness to other people about the things you feel badly about. And if you are around empathic people, they only see you as more human when you unfold certain secrets and truths that you feel people will condemn you for. One of the most important things that people want to know from me is why in the world did I get into financial therapy? And the reason is that I got into it because I stumbled in it, because I stumbled badly and lost a lot of money in the 2000 tech bubble. And I lost enough money so that it sent me into a depression. And that was very unusual for me because I consider myself being trained as a psychologist and working with other people and their issues, that I have my own issues at least well in hand. But all of a sudden I didn't, and that was very depressing to me. And the depression that I got into lasted about a year until finally one day, these things are so funny the way they happen, I was in the shower and the water was coming down on me, and all of a sudden I just started sobbing. And that kind of release really helped me say, wait a minute, you're sitting here hammering yourself on the head, and how many other people didn't lose money in the same way? So, kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You've gone through your punishment period, and now it's time to get back on the horse. And that's essentially what happened. And I decided that the only way I'd get back on the horse is to learn all about finance myself, personal finance anyway, and to learn how to analyze stocks, so I wasn't just listening to quote the expert, which yes, some people are experts, but a lot of people are not, or they think they are, but they're really not. So that taught me a lot. And then I began to look on a national basis for mentors and tutors, because this was not a category. And I did manage to find some people. And long story short, in 2009, the Financial Therapy Association was founded, and it was a collection of both academics and practitioners and financial planners and advisors. And it has grown to be quite a strong association, giving financial therapy a lot of direction, including a journal, which is a really nice thing to have. So there's ongoing research in this field. And the thing that's so funny is I was trained as a psychologist, and I have a Ph.D. in child development and clinical evaluation. And there was no mention of money at all in my training. And we were all set out to either be academics or practitioners. Academics, the institution will take care of your money, but you have to manage it yourself when you're a business person, and particularly on your own, which most psychologists are. And all of a sudden, it's like I didn't learn anything about this. And now, finally, at the age of 50-some, I'm learning about this. The American Psychological Association has done yearly national surveys to find out which issues are most stressful to people. And guess what? Money is one of their top ones. And yet they don't do anything to help people understand from a psychological basis and from a reality basis how to deal with money. So I think that's a huge lack in the psychological space that I hope financial therapy will help fill. When I recovered myself from my depression, first thing I did, I fired everybody who was helping me because I thought they did not do a good job. The broker I had was unrestrained in his enthusiasm and got me unrestrained in my enthusiasm, and I must admit greed. So I found a much more conservative broker and financial advisor, and he was very interested in psychology, and I was very interested in teaching him as much as I could about psychology as he was teaching me about finance. And he invited me down to see his high net worth clients and talk to them about psychology and how it played into their dealing with their money. Then after that, he said, well, why don't you write a book about this? Because again, you're not the only one that suffered. Other people have too. So I thought, write a book. I'd written academic papers, but I kind of gotten sick of that because they sit on the shelf. I was on a retreat, and I decided on this retreat I was going to lock myself in my room and sit in front of the computer and write. And at that point, I didn't care what was going to come out. I just had to get started. So that's how I got started, and this is the finished product. Crazy About Money: How Emotions Confuse Our Money Choices and What to Do About It. And this took about 4 years to write. I'm very grateful to my editor, Sherry Christie, who helped me with the editing. She did a great job. She made me sound, coherent. And who can argue with that? Because I was so busy both learning the craft of financial therapy and actually doing it, I didn't have much time to market my book. And then in 2016, my husband died, and that took me a number of years to recover from. And now, finally, my kids are grown. I have three adorable grandchildren, ages 14 months, 4, and 7. And, my sons are wonderful. So that freed me to really get into doing what I'm doing now, which is really marketing my book, making videos, and trying to get to people out there who are really suffering in some way with trying to deal with their money. and trying to promote the idea that everybody is struggling with that and there's no shame in it, and even if you're in debt, there are ways that you can cope with that. There are people that you can talk to, and not just about the money, because the money and how you deal with it is very deeply tied to your beliefs, your attitudes, and your emotions about money. And if you don't have that straightened out in the sense of being aware of the kinds of half-truths that you might believe about money, then your potential for self-sabotage, particularly in situations of risk, are just exponentially escalated. So that's my mission, and I have a clinical practice of financial therapy. I'm hoping that my blogs on my website, www.maggiebakerphd.com, will help people get more understanding and awareness, because without the awareness, you're not going to make a decision to do anything. And until you can kind of see yourself and your own behavior and your own relationship to money in stark reality, it's very, very hard to change. And what pains me is to see people month after month saying, oh, yeah, I know I should do this, but then they don't do it because of all the internal barriers that they feel that may stop them from just opening up and being honest to somebody. What I'd go after are the gatekeepers. And by gatekeepers, the ones that are influential in a family or in a community. If they read it and became a money master, they'd have more money to spend on their businesses. I mean, just because everybody needs to have a little self-interest in these things. But at the same time, they'll have a real sense, oh my gosh, you really thought to do this. And that leaves everybody feeling good.